Please start recording. Shalom, good afternoon from Jerusalem, Israel. This is Mr. Lowell Joseph Gallen, founder of the Root and Branch Association Limited, established in the United States of God of Israel, bless America, in New York State in 1981, now celebrating our 43rd year. Today is Wednesday, July 31st, 2024 in the Gregorian calendar, and it is the 25th day of the 4th Israelite Hebrew month of Tammuz in the Hebrew Israelite calendar. Welcome to episode 25 of our monthly Root and Branch Association seminar entitled Ancient Roots Mothering, Roots, Nettles, and Sage. And the Madam Co-Chairs are three mighty women of the God of Israel. That's an understatement, in alphabetical order. Mrs. J. Rivkah Asoulin in the Lower Galilee of the land of Israel, Mrs. Chava Dagan in the northern Negev of the land of Israel, and Mrs. Gilla Weiss in Florida. And we welcome their friends from United States and Israel, and I'm not sure where else. Welcome, ladies. In this case, everyone's lady except for myself. In our program, we have chairmen and madam chairs. I don't recognize any other category of reality, and if you do, that's your problem. Okay, so now, this seminar is part of our Root and Branch Association Limited, Fifth Israelite Monarchy, Henry Dunster College of Jerusalem, Israel Honors Program Seminars. Henry Dunster was the first president of Harvard College. This is going back 400 years. We are replanting the old Harvard in the New Jerusalem, which unfortunately we have to do because the current Harvard is not the old Harvard. It is morally, intellectually, academically, in every way dead. And therefore, when we say replanting the old Harvard, New Jerusalem, I didn't realize how true that would be. I thought that sounded nice. I'm naming after Henry Dunster, the first president of the college. And in 2036, be 400 years. So we're very glad to have world-class programming with world-class gals like Chava, Gilla, and Rivkah. That's why we do this. So please support their work. The links will be below. And now, without further ado, my work too, the college and our Hebrew Bible-based broadcasting network, send us all money, whatever you like. Kosher stuff, of course, to the links, which will be below. And now, without further ado, let me hand over the mic to our Madam Co-Chairs, Chava, Gilla, and Rivkah. It's all yours.
Thank you so much, Lo Aryeh. It's so wonderful to be here after a 2-month hiatus. We've been traveling, we've been having conflicts of of time and space-time continuum things, and we're all really happy to be back. Refuah Shlema to Gila and to my children and to anybody else who's got an illness right now. There are some interesting illnesses going around, folks. So be sure to keep your immunity well boosted, keep yourself well hydrated, keep yourself well nourished. And speaking of hydration, today we're going to be discussing water. I don't know if you can all hear me or not. Can you hear me? I'm back? Okay, I was gone. We're going to be discussing water today. So we are in the summertime in Israel. Well, we're in the summertime in the Northern Hemisphere. I was going to say everywhere, but no, more specifically. And it's hot. It's hot, y'all. I was just in New York. It's hot in New York. It's hot in Florida. It's hot in Israel. It's just hot. And it's not only hot, you know, because of the weather. It's volatilely hot because of the war. As I mentioned before the show, I was just dropped as a speaker from 3 different herbal medicine conferences in the United States because of my nationality and because people have decided to politicize all human beings from apparently Israel only, not any other country. If you don't like what the government's doing in another country, you don't throw out the people as speakers. Only in Israel does that happen. So it is politically hot. It's spiritually hot right now. We're looking at the Olympics, kind of this opening ceremony, everything that's going on. Christians are feeling persecuted right now. It's just hot across the board. And the antidote to the heat is really water. And so we'd like to talk a bit about water today. Water in Judaism oftentimes is used to represent Torah, and in secular or wider culture, life. In fact, if you remember, I think it was in Flint when the water supply was decimated, they talked about water is life. And that's something that's kind of universal. Everybody understands that. And of course, Torah is our life. It's the path of our ancestors that we follow, of our indigenous ancestors. So I think the best way to open up, ladies, if I can find my notes, which were up here a second ago, is to talk about maybe water during the 3 weeks, because we're also in the 3 weeks. This is the most difficult time for the Jewish people. This was when the siege of Jerusalem began, all the way through to Tisha B'Av, when not one, but two of our holy temples, the epicenter of Jewish light, coming from Eretz Israel, coming from the land of Israel, what was destroyed. Both were destroyed on the 9th of Av, as well as the reports from the spies that were sent into the land to evaluate whether or not it's a safe place to be. And many, many other travesties have occurred on the 9th of Av. So these 3 weeks leading up also come with prohibitions for us to be very kind of wary. We're not supposed to listen to instrumental music. We're not supposed to swim. And this is really the hottest time of year when you want to swim the most. So maybe we'll stop right here, see if Gilla and Chava have some thoughts about the 3 weeks and the water prohibitions.
I'll just start. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Just a quick reference would be, during these 3 weeks, we are supposed to sort of tone down our excitement, our enjoyment, and our pleasure. No parties, no weddings, no dances, things like that. Just to kind of keep in mind those travesties. And swimming in water is an incredible enjoyment. I mean, it's so pleasurable. And whether people take it for granted or not, especially in this heat, like, so much comes from just immersing yourself in salty water or waves or lapping lakes or whatever it might be. So relaxing. And so to tone back that aspect, as we refrain from doing it, then there's the whole, it might be dangerous. There's drownings that happen. And especially when you know that if something bad's going to happen, it's going to happen for sure right now. Of course, it can happen anytime, but definitely right now, the energies are around that. So we refrain from going in the water, like deep waters, lakes, oceans, things that have more danger attached to it. But those two are what come out for me. You're muted.
You're still muted.
It's an omen. It's a sign of. So I've been drinking lots of tea, and I have my onion honey in a teacup that I'm drinking. So hopefully I'll get through this little one and the next one, and each one from strength to strength. So from what I know and have learned, and how it's a symbol for me, the 3 weeks is not as much to take away enjoyment of the water, even though there is the limiting of simcha. So when we're in mourning, we're not supposed to have public displays of simcha. So this is somewhere along those lines, where we don't have a public display. We're not going to have a big party. We're not going to have a live band. We're not going to have a swimming party. We're not going to go out, into increase the joy publicly. So the Lubavitcher Rebbe had something beautiful that he used to share. And I hope that I get it right when I share it. And it's along the lines of the private and the public joy. In these times, we are supposed to, in Hebrew, the word is lema'et besimcha, memaitim besimcha. You're reducing, you're limiting your simcha. And he said, how do you do that? Ech memaitim. How do you reduce, or how do you limit? And he said, comma, memaitim, comma, besimcha, with joy. So it's two words that if you change the grammar, or maybe don't change the grammar, maybe that's how it's meant to be, we don't know. It's by increasing your joy. How do you increase your joy when you're so hot and you can't go diving into a pool, throwing yourself in waves in the ocean? You have to go inside. You have to go inner joy. You have to find that connection, the connection to God, to ourselves, to each other, to the world, to whatever we can connect to. And through that, to find and increase our joy. So that's really what I connect to. The other issue is that due to calamities over the years, starting with the holy temples, during these times, it's become a very superstitious time for us. And a lot of our customs surrounding this are based on, during this time, be extra careful. And the saying in Hebrew is, ushmartem lenafshechem. So you guard yourselves more. Yes, we have ultimate faith in God. We have ultimate bitachon. Yet at the same time, when we go hiking up a mountain, we don't go in the slipperiest shoes we can think of. When we build a house and we have a balcony, we do put a railing on the balcony. We are supposed to create fences. We are supposed to take care of ourselves and in the best way we can. So this is a time, spiritually and physically during the year, that there seems to be more threat or danger. So we are advised, take care, Don't go throw yourself in the ocean during the time that, at least in Israel, it's the stormiest and you have the most whirlpools. So there's a lot of that kind of, like, it's not just, oh, okay, it's hot, can't go swimming now, because you can't be happy. It's so much more deeper. And I think when you try to connect in a deep level and connect to that inner joy and understand the big picture, it's so much easier. And in today's day, we can still jump in a puddle, right, Rivkah, Chava?
Right, beautiful. So the most storms and whirlpools is metaphorically, of course, because in Israel, we don't have storms in the summer. We don't have rain in the summer. Gilla does. But yeah, it is a spiritually stormy time, a spiritually difficult time. A couple of comments that came in the chat. Isn't swimming and baths and showers okay for sanitary reasons? Yes, absolutely. It's not like a full morning. If we were, sitting Shiva for an immediate relative, this would be, also kind of debated here. And then the prohibition on swimming starts from Rosh Chodesh Av. Some people hold that way, and some people hold during the full 3 weeks, and some people hold only during the week of Tisha B'Av, meaning if Tisha B'Av is on a Yom Rishon, it's only on that day Yom Rishon. And if Tisha B'Av's on a Yom Sheni, on a I should say Sunday, and now I'm saying Monday, then it would just be the end of the week, of course, being Shabbat, and the first day of the week being Sunday. So it would be Sunday and then Tisha B'Av. So different people have different customs about how they hold. Another kind of, I guess, workaround here, that a lot of people may use for children, as I do, is that if you are teaching your children to swim, then the prohibition on the full 3 weeks is not enforced so long as the children are learning how to swim, if you hold that way, but only enforced beginning with Rosh Chodesh Av. Why teaching your children to swim? Why would that be, remove the prohibition? Well, because it's one of our mitzvot. It's one of our actual mitzvot, is to teach your children how to swim. This is an interesting thing. Because our ancestors, I mean, there's 613. And when you think about all the things that you can choose and do, teaching your children how to swim in a country that's got literally the Dead Sea, which you can't really drown in because you can't swim in it, you can only float in it, and the Kinneret and the Mediterranean Sea. I mean, there's not a lot of water in this country. There's not a lot of places where kids can, just walk into their friends, accidentally slip in the water. You have to dafka on purpose live near water to be able to access water here. It's not like, say, in America or in Europe where there's little streams and, bogs and things like that all over the place. So very interesting. But water is not, it's not only here we need to teach our children to swim as one of the mitzvot. We actually have another huge mitzvah about water, and that's the mitzvah of mikvah, of using the mikvah. And what is the mikvah? The mikvah is the gathering of waters, all the individual drops of water coming together, the gathering of water into one place. So mikvah is used for two kind of main reasons. There's the women's reason and the men's reason. And this comes from, I am a Kala teacher, but as far as sources, I'm always bad at quoting exact sources. But I'm pretty sure the second half of the book of Leviticus, which is what we keep, because it involves, as I learned from the Eden Center, go check them out, Dr. Naomi Grummet and Judith Fogel, Dr. Judith Fogel, my teachers, amazing, incredible women, little plug for them here, that we are bringing the Shekhinah, the feminine aspect of God, to earth. And so we keep these mitzvot. Some of these other mitzvot we don't keep. It's confusing because these mitzvot that involve mikvah are really about the Beit HaMikdash, which doesn't exist. And so the men have kind of dropped it, mikvah, okay, for the halakhic purposes. I'm not saying men have dropped mikvah. Many men use the mikvah or go to the mikvah, but they typically do so without a bracha, without a blessing, and they do so kind of just as they want, as they wish, for spiritual purposes. It's not exactly dependent on a reason that they would need to go. So some men go every day, some men go only before Shabbat, some, men go on the Chagim, but it's kind of when they feel like it, and they don't really ever have to go in this current era without a Beit HaMikdash, without a holy temple. However, women have a different situation. We have to go. It's, again, a mitzvah, Taharat HaMishpacha, or I never really know how to translate this because the family purity translation sucks. It's really bad. But it's really the spiritual fulfillment, I guess, of the family. Maybe would be a better translation, living up to your fullest potential spiritually as in the relations between husband and wife. And so women do go to the mikvah in time with their cycles, with their monthly menstrual cycles. And this often happens monthly for women during their childbearing years. Not all women have periods every month. Some women have, PCOS. Some women are breastfeeding and not cycling. Some women are pregnant and not cycling. And then again, some women are breastfeeding and cycling. Some women are pregnant and have some vaginal bleeding. So we're talking in very general terms. We're not getting into the nitty-gritty specifics, but in general, a menstruating woman who's menstruating once a month, and not all do, will be visiting the mikvah on a monthly basis. mikvah was something that was given to us, not, the mikvaot we have now. I've been to so many mikvaot now around the world, and they're so beautiful, and the community invests so much money in them. The mikvah is so important that a community is commanded to build a mikvah before building a synagogue. It's more important to have a mikvah than a synagogue. Not every community does that, as I'm sure you can name many yourself. However, that is the halacha. And that being said, the mikvaot are beautiful. A lot of times I see them marketed to me and other women as like a spa, a mini spa treatment. You go in, you have a beautiful bathroom, and you have the soaps, and you have all these beautiful things, and you go to this little pool that's about, 4.5 feet high or something like that. And it's this little thing. You can't swim laps in it. You can't, it's usually, a small, if you haven't seen a mikvah, I highly recommend that you go. However, this is not a mikvah or the end all and be all of mikvaot according to our ancestors. Our ancestors would use any natural body of water that met certain halachic requirements that I'm not going to get into right now. However, if you are confused about whether or not your local natural body of water, or even man-made, people dig lakes, and that's also possible. If you are unclear about whether or not your body of water in question could be a halachic mikvah, Chabad, your local Chabad, typically can figure that out for you or knows that, and it's a great resource to ask. So again, we're not getting into the nitty-gritty. Don't just jump into any puddle and say Rivkah said it was a mikvah. That's not what I said. I said check with your local halachic authority to see that it meets the halachic requirements of a mikvah. However, our ancestors in the good old days went to a body of water. Any body of water. There was no spa, there was no special shampoos, there was no anything. They went to a body of water. And that's what Hashem asks from us, is to go to a body of water that Hashem created and get in touch with the earth, with the rhythms, with the cycles, with the water, with nature. Our mikvaot are in buildings now. In general. Don't write to me about one mikvah that you know somewhere that doesn't have a roof or something. Okay. In general, the mikvaot that Jewish communities build are inside, they're enclosed. But the reality is our ancestors went to nature, out in the open. And they went typically with other women who needed to go. There was typically a buddy system. And halachically, when a woman immerses, that buddy would make sure that every hair on the woman's head immersed under the water. And that's the halacha. That's it. To make sure that all your hair goes under the water. Now, if you're a woman who doesn't want someone else looking at you to see if all your hair goes under the water, there are all sorts of cool things you can do to make sure that your hair goes under the water, so you'll know for sure that you're good. For example, if you're in a natural lake or a large body of water, you can just dive really, really deep head first, and your whole body's under the water. That's one way. Another way is to take your hair and kind of hold it to the side. And when you go under, let go of it as you go under, but it holds the hair down for that moment. And there's other things you can do as well. Technically, when you go into public to immerse in a mikvah, it is possible to have some clothing on. It's possible. And you could wear a kind of water permeable hair cover that lets water flow in and out of it. So a shower cap, skin tight is not what you'd be looking for, but you could have like a little net or something like that over your hair, and that makes sure all the hair goes underwater. And most women are smart enough and capable enough to know whether the rest of their body was actually underwater. They can feel it, they can sense it. Obviously, if there's certain communities that may need some additional help, special needs people, things like that, that's out of the realm of what we're talking about. So maybe Chava and Gilla want to jump in here since I went on and on about mikvah.
Okay, so what do we get from the mikveh besides the mitzvah of doing what we're supposed to do for our family? For me, it's a massive feeling of connection. Whereas we're running around all month and we're busy and children and work and, everything that goes on, and And then the mikveh comes, and most of us anyway, that I know of, look forward to this time. It's like a deep breath. You get a few minutes just to yourself, to connect with God, to connect with the earth, because water is an element, and to connect with our original self. How are we born? From a big sack of water. We have such a connection with this enclosing being inside of water. It's like even if you don't remember consciously, an unconscious feeling of returning home. And it just gives you peace, such calm. My area where I live, we have a few mikvaot, not so many, but some. And I was going to them for almost 20 years, probably. I went to all of them, got to know all of the ladies. And then there was some war with Qassam rockets, and we couldn't go. We had to figure out our own ways because the roads were closed and it was dangerous because the skies are filled with bombs. So I have a small pool. It's 5 meters by 5 meters circle. I have a children's slide from a playground that is now a waterfall. So as the pump is pumping the water around, it goes down this waterfall, and the sound of that waterfall coming into the pool underneath this enormous eucalyptus tree where dew is falling in all year long because it's open. I have bamboo fence around so that my neighbors and no one can, it's very private. And then there was Corona, and again, everything was closed. And during Corona, there was this massive dump of chlorine because they're so worried about virus. And she wouldn't accept me if I didn't have my mask and gloves. And it was like, it just got ugly. We lost my moment of peace. Like, where did that go? Now it's so it was more stressful than anything, more stressful than the Qassam rockets of having to drive through and, work my way. I dropped it. I completely dropped it. And then, of course, October 7th and the war. So I've gone back to my pool, and it's like I sit in the water underneath the stars, underneath the moon, the breeze through my eucalyptus tree. I'm sharing it with the bats and the dragonflies and everybody, the birds, owls. It's just like this jungle natural experience, and I stay in there winter or summer, however cold I can handle it, because it's outside. It's my peace, it's my connection, and it's my returning to me, so that when I come back together with my husband, it's like he's not dealing with all of my stuff and my emotional baggage and my stress with everything that's going right or wrong in the world. I'm just coming clean. And that way I start my month again. And it's just, it brings you back. It brings you back to the beginning.
Chava, that was so beautiful. I know that as I'm listening to you, I think everyone who hears you is wishing they had that in their own backyard.
You're all welcome to come.
And we love it. And as I'm listening, I'm thinking this is so inspiring to recreate what it is, Rivkah, you were talking about, that connection, because there is a huge chasm between going to a natural body of water or being outside in the elements. Sensory wise, you cannot compare it. The connection, the what we get, and it's everything that Hashem has created, and Hashem giving us this opportunity to go by ourselves with someone, not with all the kids and the ball, the beach balls, and it's just us. I think that our communities in modern times, more modern times, the last 20 years or so, have been trying to recreate this spa-like atmosphere to help women relax more and connect and let go and start their new cycle with that spiritually connected feeling. And there are many women who do. There are also many women who get so stressed on mikveh day and don't enjoy the baths. They're sitting there with their watches on and stressed about the whole ritual and decorum and wait, do I do this? Can I go that? Who's going to see me there? Do I ring now? Should I wait 5 minutes? There's just all these things that kind of infringe on our connection. And it's a spiritual connection. And then the mikveh itself is usually beautiful, stunning, and it's kosher, and it's spiritual. It is. But at the same time, many women walk out of the mikveh and have reactions to the chlorine and dread going. There are so many women who are, what do I do afterwards? How do I help my skin, my lungs? Many mikvahs also, at least here in the US today, use salt water. So there's this whole movement of trying to recreate Hashem's nature for us, to connect spiritually, primally, sensory, all our senses, the way it's meant to be. And so there are real issues when we, reinvent the wheel. So I really commend all these efforts to recreate that, because going and connecting spiritually and doing this beautiful mitzvah and going home with a reaction to chlorine is so stressful, so stressful. And so I do believe that if we can do what Chava is doing, or go to a natural body of water that is safe with someone, the connection that you feel afterwards, you just can't compare. So if I may Rivkah, this, we're just segueing into all the benefits of water in nature, the whole hydrotherapy, all the senses. So Rivkah, I'm going to let you start with that, and then we'll each get our say.
I might throw it back to you. I just want to add to the mikvah that we are seeing more OCD around mikvah use than I think has ever existed in any time in history. And the more we remove from the natural, again, we are an agricultural, and Gilla said it so beautifully, agriculture. It's a culture. Gilla can talk about that more. And I'm totally, stealing that from Gilla. But we are an indigenous people. That's what, and we've lost it. We've lost it, Jews. We've lost it. And we have to get it right back as quickly as possible, because that's who we are. That's who we are. And going to a natural body of water it's what it does to us. We know that so many of the mitzvot, Hashem doesn't need it. Hashem doesn't need anything from us. We do the mitzvot for us, to refine ourselves, to feed our own souls so we can be the best version of ourselves, the most actualized version of ourselves that we can be. And in order to do that, we have to be in the nature, in the land, on the land, working the land with our hands in the dirt. We've talked about this so many times. And part of going to a mikvah is getting into the water element of the earth. And we talk about it in these theoretical things, like Tiberia is the city of water and Spot is the city of air, like these ancient, all the 4 directions or the elements. But no, it's not a theory for us. It's not like a theoretical. We have to be immersed in it. We make a blessing on immersing in the water. That's exactly the blessing we make, that we immerse in it. Okay, so I just want to say about OCD and other things that Gilla, and I wouldn't have brought it up until Gilla said it, but it needs to be said. Okay, everyone's gonna get mad. That's fine. That's fine. Send all your hate mail to info@ancientrootsisrael.com. That's 100% fine. I will look at it and respond to you. A lot of people don't want women to know how much freedom we have to use the mikvah in a calm and relaxed way, where we don't need to consult any outside sources. We can learn the halacha from someone who knows what they're doing. Yes, absolutely. But then we can make our own judgment calls, especially around taharat mishpacha, which involves staining, which we can learn how to read staining on our underwear to see if our menstruation is over. We can learn to do that. We don't need an outside validation or someone to look at our underwear for us. We can learn to do that. It's a skill we can get. There's many places you can get that. There's yoetzet halachot who can teach it, other people who can teach it. But that being said, there's a lot of wiggle room. So for example, it is considered halachically correct to go to the mikvah after shkia, after sundown, for most women. Okay, some Sephardi women can go at shkia. Okay, and that's what's practiced, and that's considered correct. However, if there's a reason that this is problematic, a woman can go to the mikvah during the day. She can do that. It's possible. Okay, I'm not going to go into all the nitty-gritty here. There's prohibitions on when you can be alone with your husband after you've been to the mikvah until the sun goes down and all of these things. So don't claim that Rivkah Asoulin said we can go any time of day or whatever and no restrictions. Didn't say it. It's out of the scope of this to get to all the nitty-gritty, but I'm just letting you know that that's a possibility, and you can talk with a halachic authority about it to understand it more. Like I mentioned earlier, you can go to a natural body of water. You're not tight. Some women are like, oh my gosh, I'm in a skinny dip in front of everyone and the dark with the jellyfish in the Mediterranean Sea. No, you can go clothed. You can, have someone with you. For some women, they take their husband as their balanit, as their observer. And this is permissible in certain circumstances. It's permissible. Okay. Some women don't want to have a balanit. It is considered best practice and halachically, mainstream for a woman to have a balanit, to have someone who watches her, to make sure her hair goes under the water, and also to make sure she doesn't drown, especially in a natural body of water. A mikvah, there's a very small chance of drowning in a little tiny square, mikvah that's been built. But out there on the ocean or in a lake at sundown, or when the sun goes down and the waves can be really intense and everything, that's why we recommend that women have someone with them, not for these little built-in mikvaot. I'm not knocking it. It's a great convenience. Super happy that we have it. However, this isn't what our ancestors did. So you can go. You can go and you can take someone with you to kind of, it's best practice for safety. But if you're a great swimmer, you want to go by yourself, you can do that, as long as you know that your entire body was immersed under the water at one time. Also, when you're in a public place, don't need to be skinny dipping. You don't need to be naked. You can wear clothing. You should wear loose clothing or even any clothing that's water permeable, and most clothing is. And if you've wet everything first, when you dunk, it's fine. You can kind of shake out your shirt, shake things out when you're underwater, but you can be immersing in a mikvah where no one knows about it. Again, nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to share this stuff. Nobody wants women to share this with other people, but I just want to take this opportunity to start putting some of that information on the table, because we are empowered as women to make these decisions for ourselves. And we have lots of options that don't involve any need for, obsession over the mikvah. We can be chill and relaxed about it. Okay, so I'm going to bounce it back as far as the aromatherapy of rain and water and all of those things to Chava and Gilla to talk about some of the healing properties of water for our health.
I wanted to just quickly say something beforehand, if that's okay, Chava and Rivkah. So, Rivka, when you said people might get angry, you can send your hate mail. And I'm here to say that me, Rivka, and Chava, we're here sitting having a little chat. We're discussing with all of you who we consider, whoever listens to us anytime, whether it's your first time, 100th time, or last time. We're discussing these things because we have our fingers on the pulse. We live everyday lives in our communities. We hear from women from all over the world who reach out to us. We have mommies texting us in the middle of the night with issues. We know what's going on. We usually are, we don't share what women share with us, but we carry it and it affects us because we care so much. We really do. And we each feel that it is upon us to raise these. We don't have the answers, but we have this opportunity to question and to make sure that everyone stops a moment and thinks. Just think, give it a moment's thought. Allow thoughts to come in. Don't say, oh my gosh, I can't think that way. Just allow your thoughts. Question something. It's okay. Go look it up. Speak to other people. We're not inciting anger here, the opposite. Yes, some things people may say, that's not our way. Amazing. That's great. And someone might say, you know what? This is what I've needed to hear. I'm going to go out and become a private mikveh builder for women in their backyards. Who knows? It's all in Hashem's hands. It's all from God. So we really are doing this because in our hearts, this is what we feel. And we're reaching out to all of you, no matter who you are and where you are, what you do or what you don't do. We're just discussing things that we think are important, whether they're mundane kitchen things, changing diapers, gentle discipline, losing our minds, anything, be it controversial or totally not. And I think that is so important to say that, because that's who we are and that's how we live, because we care. We truly care. And we know that there are those of you out there who can take certain things so far. You just need to hear it voiced and to know it's okay. And that's all. We're here for you. And if you don't like anything we say, God bless you. That's okay too. If you take something here and it grows into something bigger, we're here for you. That's it. Had to say it.
Thanks, Gilla. That was awesome. Very needed. So one thing that Gilla just touched on was this idea of caring. We carry emotions with us. We carry the memory with us. We carry people's feelings and ideas and the flow and the ebb and the flow. And so we're all going back to water all of the time, because what does water do? It carries, it holds, it embraces, it supports. It's just that kind of an element. And a big part of it is this idea of carrying memories, thoughts, emotions. Even if we don't say it out loud, water absorbs these things. And if you do say, Rivkah was talking the other day, like as you're pouring water and someone in the room is yelling and screaming, it's like, wait a minute, that's having an effect on the water that we're about to drink. Think how amazing water is. It is absolutely alive. And it is something that we want to either ingest or immerse in. And it has it's so powerful in our lives in every possible form. Water comes in every possible form, whether it's frozen or it's a slushy or it's rain or it's dew or it's pools of water, whatever. And this whole idea of it carrying not only the present thoughts and emotions and words that we speak over it, it also carries memories of forever, because rain goes up into the atmosphere, creates clouds, and then comes back down, and the cycle continues. And so it has our memories of the entire world, the creation of the world, and everything along the way. And so if we kind of just think about that for a few minutes of what water holds and how in that aspect it can affect us, and then taking the idea of positivity and blessing and what we would like to add to this memory of water, maybe we can react to it a little bit differently or give it the respect that it deserves. Even the sound, if you think about it, even the sound of water. If I'm sitting next to this waterfall, oh my gosh, the sound of rushing water. If you're sitting next to a river, rushing over the stones that are at the bottom of this river. On a lake, the lapping of the water slowly. If you're at an ocean, we know the waves and that sound. Just the sound of water is so over empowering if we connect to it that way. If we ignore it, or don't give it the credit that it deserves, meditate on it, blessing over it, as we're missing so much of our connection to this world, to ourselves, to nature, to God. So Gilla's mentioning the holding, it brought all of this to my mind.
Yeah, the blessing over, the experiments that were done on water. So I just went to look it up, and I'll let everyone look it up, because now Wikipedia says that these have been debunked. But you can do your own studies, and you can see yourself, grab a microscope and, do it yourself. It's a fun homeschooling project with the kids or for yourself. But saying different phrases to water, saying, I hate you, or whatever, and the crystal structures that form in the water when you're saying negative things are really kind of misshapen, non-symmetrical. And when you say loving things like, I love you, or, peace, love, loving words, the crystalline structures in the water form very beautiful, complex, and symmetrical patterns. And I was thinking about it too. We have the custom as an indigenous people of saying a blessing over everything we eat and drink. And when we think about how especially liquid holds memories, and again, Chava touched on this, but you can look that up some more about studies that have been done for this, the memory of water, but it's kind of like what I just said, how it remembers that you said these negative words, and it internalizes it and changes the structure. So when we eat, it's actually a protective measure for us, that the food we're putting into our body, when we bless it, we say, thank you, Hashem, for creating the fruit of the vine, or whatever it is. It changes the actual structure, molecular structure of the food or drink that we're eating or drinking. And then we only put it into our bodies then. We can see this really, really obviously with water. Of course, the sounds, that's why people buy fountains. People have those fountains in their yard, or fountains on their desk, or whatever, because the sound of water is so soothing. The only place, yep, that's it, Madeline. That's the studies that I won't mention. But yes. So all of these things, okay, are so important. We know that water is soothing. We know that water is calming. That's why people buy fountain. That's why, people swim in water and can feel very relaxed in the water. Water has been known in psychology and other types of therapies. There are water therapies to help people relax from trauma and things like this. So that's known science. We already know about it. Some things we don't think about are the aromatherapy of water, which Gilla brought up when we were discussing kind of the calm after the storm, or after a rain. That smell. I remember my mother saying, the world smells so fresh after a rain. everything just smells so fresh. And I was thinking back to being a girl crunching on the leaves of autumn in the Midwest where I grew up, and the smell of water over from a storm over those leaves just brought out this sweet smell, kind of like a dried hay smell of those leaves. And it just permeated everything. And the smell was so soothing and relaxing. We've talked about essential oils and aromatherapy, and we've talked about the controversy around essential oils because they are toxic. Don't be sorry, Madeline. It's important people see that. But we'll let everyone look it up for themselves too, because of the controversy around that. But that being said, toxicity in essential oils, they are toxic. If you drink a bottle of essential oil, you're probably not going to survive. They're toxics, and we've talked in other podcasts about how they were discovered, and we know that. But there's other types of aromatherapy that don't involve essential oils. They're natural smells, like when we're making a tea or a yogi tea or chai tea on the stove, or we're baking cookies, or the smell after a rain. And all of these things can calm us, soothe us, have incredible powers, not only for us, but for the whole community. Rain doesn't only fall in my yard. Rain falls all over my village. Everyone is benefiting from those soothing smells. And I do recall many times going outside after rain and seeing my neighbors outside just taking that deep breath in, and everyone is benefiting. And think of the benefits for the community when everyone communally, your whole community, whether they believe in natural stuff or buy into it or not, most people on earth can agree that things smell really nice and fresh after a rain, and they enjoy taking those deep breaths. And imagine the peace and unity that can come from a community that's outside doing that together. We don't often do that. Any more comments about that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Rivkah. So actually, there's a name for the natural aromatherapy we get from thunderstorms and rain. It's called atmospheric aromatherapy. Essentially, we are getting so many benefits. When we have rain and it hits the soil and leaves, like Rivkah said, it breaks up some of the volatile oils in the plant matter. So we're actually getting some of the aroma, the collective aroma, and some of the bacteria, the microbiome. We're getting that as well as we inhale. And there's even a name for that very earthy smell, because it is a very deep earthy smell. So we have atmospheric aromatherapy. But essentially, you don't need to know a name for anything. None of us do. Like Rivkah said, we don't have to believe. It's just there. It's a gift, the blessing of rain. And the smell is something that we all notice it. We have different descriptions, but the most common description is that earthy, deep smell, because it touches something really deep inside of us. It's a primal. It's like a primal smell, the combination of the bacteria in the soil and all the oils from the plants. And it is soothing, and at the same time, it's energizing, it's invigorating, which leads into another beautiful benefit from thunderstorms, and that is the negative ions in the air, the atmosphere. Negative ions are tiny, small, charged particles. And that, people go to places and do different therapies to try and get negative ions and all these things we discuss here. But essentially, the most abundant amount of negative ions are found in a thunderstorm. So all we need to do is stick our noses outside after, before, during, and take a deep breath. And the benefits show that not only does it boost serotonin and we feel good, we know that, but it actually helps lung function. So we can spend time looking this all up, But I would suggest just go out and experience it. If you want to go validate afterwards, go ahead. Send us the information too. We love it. But the most important thing is the experiential. We need to experience this. This is our gift. Every single person on this planet has this gift, this natural gift through water, through storms, through rain, through thunder. We get this. And what else do we get from rain? We get puddles. Yay! If I'd have asked kids, they would have said that before anything else. Never mind serotonin, never mind any of that. Puddles, yes. So access the kid inside of us and go jump in the puddles with your kids. You'll have fun, you'll bond. And at the same time, believe it or not, you're getting the benefit of all those good soil bacteria that have been now seeped up into the water. Puddles are a treasure trove of all kinds of microbiodiverse organisms. In fact, there are studies on puddles and the positive effect on the environment called, one of the studies I read is called The Secret Life of Puddles. Well, we don't need any secrets. We just need to join our kids and go jump in those puddles. And believe me, once you do that, I see this happening sometimes. Moms are on the periphery telling kids not to go in barefoot because we've been conditioned that puddles are dangerous. Puddles are bad. And I hear it all the time. But there's chemicals. Yes, there's chemicals. It's next to a road. You're going to get that. But how do we know that there aren't more biodiverse microorganisms there that take care of the chemicals? Right? Our conditioning to fear. So again, stop. Don't think too much. Jump in. It's called rewilding. We pay money for courses to rewild and classes, and they're amazing. But if you jump into a puddle barefoot with your kids, that doesn't get any more rewild than that. Access the wild woman inside of you. But of course, use caution and use your head. Don't afterwards call me up and say, you told me to jump in the puddle and there was a broken bottle there. Use caution. Use your wisdom. You all have inherent wisdom. It's been passed down through our ancestors. Access it. Use it. Use caution. But go rewild yourselves.
Use common sense. How do we know that this is kosher? How do we know that this is kosher, a kosher behavior? Well, besides the fact that Hashem made it, made the rain, made the puddles, made the bodies of water, commanded us to go into a mikvah, commanded us to say brachot over our glass of water and, you know, all of our drinks and food and all of this. We have brachot for the first rain of the season, for thunder and for lightning. We have brachot for rainbows. We have brachot that our creator spirit and our ancestors. So, I mean, it's about being out there. You're supposed to be out there. You're supposed to be seeing it. Drop everything. A thunderstorm happens, drop everything. First rain of the season, drop everything. If you don't want to get wet, you can stand on under a covered area or even at the window and watch it. You need to in order to say the blessings. You can't say a blessing on thunder if you didn't hear it, and you can't say a blessing on lightning if you didn't see it. So that's what Hashem is saying. How do we know that this is kosher? Hashem commanded us to be out there seeing the thunder and lightning every single time, every single storm. It's part of us. It's part of who we are. It's part of what we are supposed to do to refine ourselves to actualize our own potential. Chava.
It's a big thing all over wherever, earthing. Everyone says, go put your feet on the dirt, go put your feet on the grass, go walk in a forest, go walk in the desert, whatever. About what is earthing? Earthing is of the elements. It is of the earth. So if you go and stick your feet or swim or whatever in a puddle, in a lake, in a, whatever river, you are releasing bad energies, negative energies from all of our devices and phones and, all of these things, electricity, releasing it out through our feet or whatever is touching the body of water. And there's water again, ready to embrace, ready to accept, ready to take it out of us and refill us with this amazing, good electricity, energy. So it's an exchange. And when you put your bare feet or bare hands or whatever into this body of water that is earthing, that is connecting with the earth, with its energy, with its electricity, and it's only beneficial. I mean, there's just nothing bad. It's just beneficial. It's a gift from God, again, through water, right? I mean, it's just, you can't get away from such goodness.
So we should start kind of wrapping up. I just want to mention animals are animals as well. They need water, especially during these hot months. I talked some time back about losing chickens to a heat wave when they kicked over their water and there was no second source of water. So constantly at this time, many of us who have animals, it could be a dog, it could be a cat, it could be like Chava, who's got one of everything, or at least one, many of everything. If you've got just some chickens, and whatever, okay, making sure throughout the day that they have water and making sure that you say something nice to the water before you give it to your animals, or you say something nice to the animals while you're giving them water because the water picks that up. Animals don't need to say a bracha. And but we can also give. We think like, how can we give? How can we give to our animals? That's a huge way. It's saying, hey, oh, you must be so thirsty. Here's some nice, cool water. All that stuff is going to help realign the molecules inside the water so that they're in the most healthful, easily assimilatable, places for our animals, and making sure that our animals have water to drink and water to step in or bathe in or, play around in a little bit is important. And also the food sources of water. It's not only water in these natural bodies of water. We've got fish. I mean, for many people, they have the custom of eating at least 2 different types of fish on Shabbat. This is part of our ancestral tradition. Where are those fish coming from? The market? No. A lab? No. The fish came from the water, from the natural bodies of water where fish are plentiful. We had to go out and get the fish. What about for those of us who are kind of a little bit crunchy, far out there, what are we using? Seaweeds. Where's the seaweed coming from? Okay. What about all these different, I was talking with the ladies about cattails going in upstate New York and seeing off on the side of the road these cattails growing and telling my host, those are edible. And her going like, what? Really? I didn't know that. But whenever I see cattails, I know there's some water there because they can't be there without water. So there's certain flora and fauna that are only existing around water. Something very special for us that have special medicinal qualities. Doctrine of signatures we've talked about. Certain plants that are growing near water deal with the humors or the waters in the body. That goes all the way back through the ancient canon of herbal medicine, the culpepers and whatever, all the way back. And the Rambams. This isn't a new age, it's an old age understanding. So if you're having problems with mucus or systemic inflammation or other things that might involve the humors, you may be looking at plants that grow near the water. Okay, so a lot happening around water. Of course, the wild animals need to have water. So you will find them at the watering hole, natural body of water. Besides all of the incredible symbolism, which we don't even have time to go into, look at all the stories from our ancestors about water. The couples that met at the well, Rachel and Yaakov, right? For example. Okay, but couples that met at the water, what about other stories about wells? The word Beersheba, the city of Beersheba, is named for the 7 wells, right? And the 7 and the Brit. Okay, the story of Yitzchak, who had to uncover his own water. His father's wells weren't enough. They kept filling it in. He had to cover. There's so many stories about the importance of water. It is so Jewish. It's so important. It's such an important practice. And this isn't water from the tap, and it's not water in a building called a spa mikvah. This is natural bodies of water, natural wells out in nature. That's the water that's sacred to our people. And we're in a lot of danger of getting disconnected from that natural water connection, having all our water come from the tap. Maybe we've got a filter on it, but that's the closest thing that, we have to some kind of understanding. We used to bathe in the water. That's how we took showers or baths. Okay, was to go to a natural body of water. We didn't have running water in the home. All of these things. Oh, and the last thing I want to say, well, you know what? I'll pass it on, and then we can talk about the final thing, I think, is simple pleasures that I want to say. But go ahead. Any other comments about this?
Just one thing that wasn't mentioned along your lines was Miriam's well, and also Moshe hitting the rock before mentioning God's name, and that whole punishment, and how it affected Moshe for the rest of his life, and how important it was to God. So this idea of a mirror, the world inside of us and us inside of the world. And you mentioned the humors of the body. They are completely water, tears, blood, mucus, our menstrual cycle, eyes, everything. We're just bursting with water, sweat.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. And sweating, and right. So we are a mirror of the water in the world, and how we are so connected, whether we pay attention or not. So I just wanted to mention that.
Gilla, you're muted.
It's better because my voice didn't really come out in those first few words. Everything you mentioned about our bodily fluids it's just so amazing. But actually, our bodily fluids are salty, all of them. We think that our tears are salty. Our blood is too. Our saliva, the amniotic fluid, and as Rivkah mentioned, semen. Every fluid is salty. So one of the things that we do is when we go to the sea, when we go to the ocean, if we have a little cut, it burns. Sometimes even if we just have sensitive skin, we come out, it feels like stingy, we scratch it, it's like itchy, stings. But when we have a wave crashing over us or into our face, we come out of there and our sinuses are clear and we can take a huge deep breath. So the salt water and the salt air are truly a gift. One of the things I do to try and recreate having the ocean in mama first aid kit at home is making a wound spray or a bug bite spray or any kind of an all-purpose spray in a base of salt water, saline solution. So people usually, when I say, oh, it's in salt water, they're like, it's going to burn. And I'm like, nope, tap water is going to burn more. Nobody said you need to go pour half a cup of salt in a cup of water. You're going to do maybe a quarter teaspoon in a whole cup, and you're going to get a ratio similar to our body. And it doesn't burn. And over and over, I have had my own kids who are like, it's going to burn. And then they're like, it doesn't burn. And tap water does burn because the pH and the salinity is totally different than our bodies. But when you do something to an open wound and it's the same as your own bodily fluids, doesn't burn. And the salinity is like teeming with all these minerals. The salty means there's tons of minerals in there, you know. So when we go to the ocean, we're actually taking a bath in this rich mineral water while we're floating and looking at the sky and waves crashing and serotonin is being boosted and we're just like smiling around us. We don't want to go home. We're like, forget what we have to do for the rest of the day. Our body is absorbing those beautiful minerals that are inside this body of liquid, this fluid, that we can absorb, and we are inhaling salty air at the same time. So it all goes back again. There's kind of that balance between our inner body fluids and the water outside, the inner waters and the outer waters. And when we connect those two, that's where everything happens. So it's really all about that, you know. Forget the cleaning, forget the carpool, forget camp, pack up a picnic, grab a towel. You don't even need a wound spray. You got salt water. Go to the beach if you have. And if you don't, go to a lake. Lakes are incredible resources of minerals. You know, the soil, the fish, the rocks. Lakes are incredible. Take those shoes off. Walk on the pebbles a little. Let the squishy mud get in your feet there. You can put them on afterwards, but do it for a few minutes. That's your grounding. That's your earthing. Just like Chava said, you know.
Yeah, the Dead Sea. So, you know, I thought of something that was mentioned earlier, the amniotic fluid. You know, many of us get our start in this saline solution and in salt water. I mean, that's how Hashem created it. Like, you know, is it kosher? Is that what Hashem wants? Let's see. There's blessings, there's commandments. We all start life in it. Like, it's a big deal. The parsha of coming out of Mitzrayim and the sea, Yom Suf, splitting. Okay, it's just like the bag of waters splitting open and the parallel to the 9 months and everything. I'm not going to go into it here, but we can discuss it at a later date. That people buy Dead Sea mud all over the world because of its mineral content. People come to the Dead Sea to heal many different ailments from all over the world. There's, you know, spas there, and the spas go in the Dead Sea and just, you know, be in there. You know, it's world renowned. We're not like making it up. Everybody understands that this is so health promoting and so important. And certainly our ancestors did, and our creator spirit did, when we were commanded to make blessings over this and actually go to the water. And I want to add a little story about a friend of mine whose daughter stepped on a rusty nail. And she called me in a panic. She had no idea that this had happened, but it had happened a few days before. The daughter didn't tell her at all. And the daughter started saying that her foot was hurting, and the mother looked at it, and there's pus and there's streaks and there's all sorts of things. And she called me and asked me what to do. Again, I'm not providing medical advice to you. I am not FDA approved, CDC approved, NIH approved, FBI approved. I'm not approved by anybody. But that being said, she did call me to ask for advice. And I said, well, what are you doing right now? She said, well, we were on our way to go to the sea, to the ocean, the saltwater ocean. And I said, go, just go, and let her soak that foot in there. Carry on with your plans. It's lasted 3 days. Let her soak that foot in the ocean as much as you can. Call me if you continue to see any problems after you've been at the beach. And she went and stayed something like 5 hours at the beach. Her daughter had a blast. And by the time she got out of the water, by the morning, the swelling was down, the streaking was gone, everything was in great condition. Salt water has a power to, salt and water combined together has a drawing power that can draw toxins out of the body. Epsom salts, which Gilla loves to recommend to people. And really check out Gilla's products because she sells this wound spray that's incredible. And you may also be doing Epsom salt things sometimes. So for the muscles and the aches, and also check out Chava's products, which are absolutely amazing, phenomenal, incredible. I get to test. She brings me little gifts, and both of them bring me little gifts, and I get to test everything myself. I'm telling you, stellar, incredible stuff. Definitely check it out and purchase from these ladies. I want to kind of close with the idea of simple pleasures. In my travels, I think of a line from a Sondheim musical. I've dealt with kings and queens. In my travels, I met all kinds of people who are from all walks of life, from super wealthy to super homeless, drug addicts on the street, and everybody in between. And I found kind of a common denominator around water, that even people who live in mansions and have everything they need, right down to the people who really just want to shower, they want to bathe, and they feel so much better and so much more human when they've had a shower. If you're living homeless, I don't know if anyone's done that. I have. And I know the importance of having a shower, how humanizing it is. But even people who are living in mansions with, what all the things they, wealth, Baruch Hashem, thank God, tons of wealth. What I found across the board is this kind of like the simple pleasures of being in water. If it's from, like I said, just getting a shower and needing to bathe, all the way up to sitting in a lake, even with your mansion, even with your beautiful things, to just sit in the water and look around at the birds, at the trees, at the flora and fauna, feeling the water on you. Throughout this war, being in the water, in natural bodies of water, has really been the only place I found true relaxation. We've talked in other podcasts about dealing with the stress, and we do that. We all do that. But true relaxation, where I feel totally at peace, totally at ease, it's when I'm in a natural body of water. And, I guess also, my children have had some medical procedures, some dental procedures. And the dentist was telling me how amazed she was because I don't use laughing gas and I don't use all these things with the kids. Instead, what I do is help them with guided meditation. And part of the guided meditation is for them to imagine themselves floating on water and helping to get the body to relax. Because when they tense up, I'll tell them, remember what it's like to be in back float. Feel your arms floating up and out, and your belly floating up and out, and your legs just floating on water. That's something my mother actually taught me when I was little. That was her happy place, was to be floating on water. So even you can even recall that feeling in your mind to bring relaxation and bring peace during times of war or strife, or your kids have done something. You've had a bomb dropped on you, like literally or figuratively. Things you can do to access the power of water in your mind. Any closing words from Chava and Gilla?
That whole idea of the war. I mean, what is war? It's bombs, it's fire, it's shooting, it's guns, it's high, just hate or feeling stuck. You're in an army, you're taking orders, whatever it is, plus the heat that's going on. It's just like this bomb or like a fireball that just never ends. And what puts out that fireball is water, cooling water. So if everyone can either imagine or physically get to water or hear it or smell it or in some way involve water during this time, it would just really help bring the heat down internally for everyone. And that really, like you said, just calms the whole idea down so that the stress can sort of go with the flow down the river and say goodbye for even a few minutes.
Gilla, do you have anything?
I think you've said everything. I mean, there's always more to say, but I think that we've given over pretty much.
Yeah, rewatch this one. there's a lot of good stuff here that we packed in. Like I'm making my checklist, writing, checking off everything. There's a lot of stuff here. So rewatch it next time and make some notes.
Yes.
Because I think it's deceptively maybe simple, but there's lots of little bits and pieces that you can implement right away. So
Yeah.
we'll end the call, open it up to Q&A. Thank you so much, and we will see you next month.